Ma hold that it is their holy duty, given to them by the ultimate authority, to reclaim all of New Eden and unite mankind under the banner of their faith. They are not unique in their belief that our species requires unification under one cause or another. The Roden field into God, the Galenti fight to spread their democratic monopoly, and Sandra's nation force people to join their union. They believe that it is right and proper that all humanity should be of one mind and purpose. I believe differently. I believe that if humanity has any divine purpose at all, it is to be an agent of chaos and conflict. This is not about them. Greed is destructive. Destruction ultimates the force of the universe. The old and rusty must be torn down in a way for the revival. Without destruction, there would be no revolution. The world would have no purpose except to endure, stagnant, and static, forever. Do you disagree with me? Good. Let us pit our wills and beliefs against each other then, and may the conflict strengthen us both, because I would rather die 1,000 times in this dystopian heaven than live for 1 minute in your utopia. Fortunately for me, I am able to do so.
The universe is yours.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 42, the Mind Clash podcast. A very busy episode tonight. We got a lot of people and places to be, but that's okay. Kael, thanks for joining us.
Oh, hello, yes, thank you for allowing me to be here and present for duty.
Well, thanks for getting out of work early.
No, I'm still here.
Oh well. Did you have a good week?
I didn't have too bad a week. I stayed busy. I did play some of the Eve on Friday night, actually. We're actually hunting down a AT-13 ship, I believe, the Imp. We didn't do very well because it's, of course, nullified and all that fun stuff, so yeah, we couldn't catch it. But damn it, we tried.
Yeah, it's exciting to chase those expensive ships.
Yeah, I wanted it so bad. How was your week?
Oh, pretty busy with real life stuff. I am struggling to balance my real life obligations and Eve obligations, but I'm making do.
The struggle is real. Luckily, I'm on Prozac now, so I can stay up longer.
Let me tell you about adulting and how adulting sucks.
I know, right?
Well, we're joined by a great group of guests here tonight. We'll start on the left with Matterall. Can you introduce yourself to someone who's lived under a rock or has never played this game before, maybe hasn't heard of you?
Oh, it's probably plenty. I'm Matterall. I am the former editor for EN24, former editor for TMC, Matani, and Matani.com, and for INN. And then I moved over to creative direction. So I'm the creative director. So you'll see a whole new look for INN coming out soon. But I also host a show called Talking in Stations. It's been running for about 1.5 years. I did the Eve News 24 podcast before that for about a year. Yeah, all that to say it's busy after hours.
Yeah, definitely. You're a busy guy. But you know what? You've been doing some pretty darn good work. I do like the stuff you've been putting out.
Thank you.
I hope you get to play some Eve in between all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Roden, can you introduce yourself?
Hey, how you doing, guys? I'm Roden. I do the Eve Station Trading streams on Tuesdays, where I show people what to trade as Injita, of all things. I actually don't undock, hardly ever. And I also help out with the Blue Horseshoe Club podcast on Tuesdays with Caleb Aranya, where we talk market topics and some meta surrounding those types of topics. And for actual Eve stuff, I actually am a part of the Wrecking Machine Alliance, where we killed Citadels in Empire.
Nice. And for those of you who aren't aware, we've actually I started hosting the Station Trader podcast on our same stream. So if you want to download that, it's available at the same place you get our MP3 podcast.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You did.
Pushing the buttons.
All the buttons. Orion, how you doing, my man?
Hey, Orion SaSolo, FC, and member of Dystopian Heaven and Relax Alliance out of Fountain.
Nice.
Are you relaxed because you're always on drugs?
This is most certainly the case. In Eve.
Opus Magnum?
Hello, I'm Opus Magnum, CEO of Eve Onion News. I am also a member of DICE and NC Dot, so I fly with Matterall.
At a previous time in my life, I would have been real grumpy, but don't care anymore.
Oh, I forgot to mention I was an NC Dot. Dice Corporation. Best corporation.
It's under your name. Don't worry.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. I appreciate it. We've had a busy week out there in the EVE universe. There has been a lot going on as far as media coverage, and we'll get into that in our spotlight, where I'd like to cover Summer of Rage, quote unquote, and all of the things that are going on there, especially from a media perspective. But we'll cover that in our spotlight. First up, I'd like to cover a bit of the news of what has just been delivered to us on a steaming platter this week.
What has been delivered on this steaming platter? And I thought we were actually going to call it the late spring of Rage. Isn't that what we're going with?
Could it be the early winter of Rage?
Winter is coming eventually at some point, according to CCP.
I'd like to call it the Solstice of Bitching.
I like that one.
But yeah, definitely some things have been happening. We did the Rogue Swarm release, the 119.6 thing last week, and a lot of other things came out of that were not so great. And we had the fighter nerf, excavator nerf, escalation nerf, fleet changes. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I heard a lot of people bitching about the fighter changes. Not only are we talking, the fighter damages and the speed, but we're talking about the rate at which you're targeted by NPCs. So a lot of people are saying my fighters are dying left and right.
That's a good balancing point, though, isn't it?
I mean, sure. I mean, yes and no.
Not when it affects PvP as well, because I felt that fighters were balanced for PvP.
So if it was if the messaging didn't involve PvE at all, would people be not as butthurt?
Everyone's going to be butthurt, or someone's going to be butthurt. It doesn't matter.
Well, one of the problems, if I can talk, one of the problems with that is that if your fighters are dying fast when you're trying to make money with them, now they count more as ammo, and so you have to start making calculations on the worth of doing the PvE. And that can be easy to do or hard to do, and it might be discouraging.
Yeah, I had a couple of court mates on comms we were talking about on Friday night, and they're like, look, I'm not going to carry her right now. I'm just going to hop in a VNI or an Ishtar and call it good. Not have to worry about losing fighters.
Yeah, I mean, from a PvE perspective, that's not too bad.
But I thought they dialed that back. CCP said they were going to make your fighters easier to kill, but also we're going to make the spawns aggress them more often. And I think they pulled half of that back.
Yeah, they basically said that instead of doing 20% on the fighters, speed and damage, they only made it 10%.
Yeah, they did scale back the nerf based on player feedback, apparently.
Yeah,
well, what's kind of phony about this, though, is that CCP is saying the problem that we're trying to rectify is that people are making too much money with fighters. They're making too much money killing these spawns too fast with fighters. That's the problem they're aiming to fix. So what happens is people get upset, and what do? They nerf their fix instead of just nerfing a different aspect of it that people are complaining about, like, oh, in PvP my stuff's going to be worse and stuff like that. So they really caved to demand here, and I think you'll see CCP reattack this problem later.
Yeah, but I know everyone has their own different style play, and everyone does different things. But for me, when I would carry a rat, I'm not making tons and tons of money. I'm making 100 million an hour, if that. If that.
Doing it wrong.
I know I'm doing it wrong, but that's the way I do it. And now I'm going to make even less. We're going to talk about 40, 50 million per hour.
In Fountain with my fully skilled character, I was doing like 65 before taxes per tick with my carrier. So that's...
Well, you think about those numbers, and they're ridiculous. Like, you guys are ridiculously wealthy compared to a lot of people.
Of course.
Yeah.
And this isn't even super capital. This is just capital fighting, or capital ratting. So the problem, you can see, gets exponentially worse. And so that's why they're like, well, hold on a minute. I mean, I as a ratter would rat in a battleship. Most people would. And you'd be getting 15 to 25 million per tick, which is 20 minutes. So I'd be getting 60, 70 million an hour or something, which is just a little more than missions if you're doing like level 4 missions. So it kind of is about right. But when you get these capitals involved, all of a sudden you're like 4 or 5 times as much.
But you also have a lot more, assets, more ISK on the field to do that with. So there's more. You've got more to risk. Now, I think the problem with some of that risk is that I'm not picking on goons, but let's just take Fort Delve, right? Is very secure for what it is. I mean, you can pretty much bet if you get tackled, you can probably get someone to come help you. Look at Providence and the other regions; they may not be as secure. But if someone has done carry ratting, I feel pretty comfortable that if something came about, I could, as long as I'm paying attention, I could, GTFO if I have to. So the risk, I think the problem is that CCP doesn't see enough dying, I guess, of these, deaths of these carrier ratting or super ratters, and that's what they're trying to fix.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the latest MER, I mean, holy shit, man, the wealth gap is huge. It's absolutely huge. Like, it wouldn't even be so bad if all this income is being generated if it was actually getting destroyed. But those graphs are saying otherwise. Looking at the ISK delta, it's a huge positive. So it's just money coming in, and it's not going anywhere.
But what I find strange is, okay, so CCP's been on this like double angled nerfing cycle lately. With the Rorix, they did the excavator drone nerf plus the anomaly, spawn timer nerf, if you want to call it a nerf. With this, the carriers, they did the fighter changes, and they're doing the fighter changes plus the whatever the other one is.
Excavators?
No. With the carrier changes with the ratting, and also the drones attack the fighters more often than they used to. Even, this is like the second time they've made them go after the fighters even more heavily. So they've been on this two-sided nerf kick, which I don't approve of. So I think they're really aggressive. When I think that they should be able to just say, okay, for Havens, you can't put a carrier there anymore. So anything above a capital can't go into Havens.
Yeah.
I mean, they do that for other types of sites. Why can't you do it with that one? And just make it where these are battleship and below. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I mean,
well, you can't. You'll affect the sandbox. That's part of the whole thing.
But I mean, there's other sites that restrict that. Well, I guess they're faction warfare sites. So my bad.
Yeah, those are missions and stuff. But I think one of the things that was brought up a second ago by Roden is very interesting. I've had my eye on it, but I'm not able to really explain it, and that is the income delta that shows that in the last few months, it's been a negative trillions, right? -7 trillion, -10 trillion, numbers like that. And all of a sudden, it was a plus 15 trillion. And what that means is a lot of money came back into the game. And we're talking plus 15 trillion. So all the losses or whatever that are calculated are already out, and you're still 15 trillion higher than you were before. That's an alarming number, and that's why you saw aggressive action from CCP. The question is, why did that number go up? We still don't know.
The number came up because Plex changed and became easier to actually slowly but surely launder money back in.
Yeah, true.
I think that might be part of it. There's a lot of accounts turning back on. The biggest wealth drop in the game is not people spending money or blowing up. It's people quitting the game. They earn a lot of money and they walk away from the game. So why did maybe all these accounts turn back on?
So one of the things to consider as well is how actually CCP, the company, interacts with Plex, the product. If you were to actually look at the company's numbers, they call it profit when it really shouldn't be. So it's delta equals real life profit, right? So that's a little like there's a whole lot of tinfoil that you can do on that end, on that angle.
Because it's actually not profit, it's debt, right?
Correct.
Plex
it's supposed
debt.
to be deferred, but it's not in the latest actual company sheets.
Yeah, incidentally, a few years ago, maybe many years ago now, when the economy was crashing, CCP actually went into confiscated money, like say a bunch of drug dealers got their assets seized and the police start liquidating that in order to, pay for things. That's what happened in Eve. They went into these accounts of people who had their accounts seized for RMT, and they used that Plex to stabilize the Plex market when it was having a bad crash.
Yep. I mean, the biggest change into, I think, how they're starting to interpret their own items is, I think they finally attached value to a Plex. They made definitively, so they kind of connected the meaning, right? Plex equals game time. Game time equals money. Before, they didn't really interact with Plex in that manner.
How so?
I'm not sure. It could just be just how their account. Maybe it's different over there in Iceland as far as accounting laws. So this is kind of a bit of we tinfoiled this over the weekend about this stuff. So right now, and I apologize if I'm kind of butchering some of these details, but it's almost as if CCP wants to have the appearance that it looks really, really good. You know what I mean? But at the same time, can it really be interpreted that way based on how they do their accounting, right? So if in a few months or a few months ago, they didn't really interpret Plex this way, but now they do, is it to beef up their numbers for, I don't know, to acquire other assets, to sell the company? I don't know, whatever, right?
No, they'll never sell the company. You might see them groom to sell some shares of the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely possible.
They sell this company, whoever buys it's going to inherit the player base. It's going to be mad. It's going to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't want that.
Plus, the game is really seated in I think it's really seated in an Icelandic culture. And I don't know how deep that goes, but in the early days, it went pretty deep. And I just don't know if you can separate Eve from Iceland and the CCP itself.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, in a way, that's kind of cool. That's very, it's very motivating if you're in Iceland. If you're from Iceland, I think.
If someone bought the company out from, say, another country, do they pick up the monument and take it with them?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility for a company like, say, Tencent to pick up CCP, or a company that's a subsidiary of Alibaba from China to actually pick up a company like CCP.
Don't say that.
Wow. Sweet Chinese skins, though, bro.
Just
I do like the Chinese skins.
just spreading rumors here. Like none of that is true, and who knows why the numbers look like they do. What's interesting in more current events is that the price of Plex is spiking again, and there's some speculation on why that's happening.
It's not done spiking. It's not done. It's just started.
So I heard so the report I heard today was over 3 million per individual mini Plex, which is converting to about 1.5 billion in old Plex.
Yeah, I think it's gonna grow, but I think Roden, you probably know more about that than I do. But certainly, you've seen it just increase quickly.
Yeah, the things that usually run in parity to Plex that causes it to spike up hasn't even spiked up yet. It's not done. It's just started.
What is that?
So if you look at the relationship between extractor to injector to Plex, they'll eventually run in parity. So right now you got extractors that are picking up above average. Injectors have not done that yet. And then usually once the injectors pick up, the Plex picks up.
I get that relationship. And that's amazing. The Plex is going up because people are taking skills out of characters. They're selling that on the market, getting that money, and then moving it into something stable, which would be Plex, right? Because that's like the gold standard. So you're saying that because extractors are still selling hot, that means a lot of stuff's still being extracted, which means more Plex will be bought in the future.
Yeah, so the cycle hasn't actually gone through like in a linear fashion yet. So usually you'll see extractors go high, Plex go high, Plex go high. Extractors go high, injectors go high, then Plex goes high.
And you would see that in a wave, right? Like
Yep. And then it'll eventually run in parity, and then until something changes, then they all move together in a staggered manner again.
Well, I'm thinking that this is a lot of people that are coming out of, and it could be related to the Delta, right, that we were talking about earlier, that this is players who are maybe one player that owns 100 accounts or 200 or 400 accounts, because we know people do, basically harvesting what was skilled up in the last few months. And then you have to think, is that related to Ghost training? So trying to cash in on all that before it's totally messed up.
Yeah. That Ghost training madness, man. It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge.
And so speaking of that, that's one of the things that just came out, I want to say it was yesterday, as a matter of fact, the dev blog from CCP Falcon, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So Falcon came out with a dev blog, and it pretty much said, for the most part, said we're aware of this problem. We realize it exists. They're going to be putting a kibosh on that, because that's obviously not a good thing. And directly in relation with that was the Concord ship issue, because it seemed that a lot of these people who were going to Iceland, they had several hundred accounts. They may or may not be having SP farms, and they also got 100 and something Concord ships. So there's another jump in ISK going around.
Yeah, I'm glad they did the Concord ship fix, because guys like Dunk Dinkle is probably one of the nicer dudes I know in Eve, and when he says something he feels is really out of place, people should take notice to that, because he's never usually fired up about any kind of crazy Reddit drama or Eve is dying or something or other.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's missed that is the new Concord ships, the Pacifier and Enforcer, the Frigate and Cruiser, were handed out to all players who attended Eve FanFest in Iceland this year, and it was given out one pair of ships per account that you had attached to your email. So several players, at least I saw on Twitter, did not have all their characters or all their accounts connected to their same email, so they missed out on the opportunity and were raising a stink that they didn't get all their ships. Players who had the skill farmers got a lot, and above average, most players who didn't get a chance to go to FanFest because it's expensive, because it's too far away, because of whatever reason, did not receive these ships at all. And there was a lot of pushback against that, opposed to other releases that have come out at, say, Eve Vegas. We typically receive skins for the event, and you receive one card or one just code, so you get one copy of the prize per player, not per account. So it would be distributed equally among all people who attended. But that was the gap and the controversy around that topic.
Well, you conflated a couple things. One is some skill farmers do have their accounts on separate emails, and they probably are doing that to avoid detection, in the future. And there's some speculation that CCP accidentally, in quotations, did this in order to kind of map everybody's accounts to the same person, so then they could actually enforce ghost training better. Of course,
Pretty brilliant.
That would be very smooth move, but I doubt that.
I don't know if it was worth it though. I mean, if they did do it, I don't know if the backlash is worth them trying to map ghost trainers using that method. Because this is one of these issues, right? They have all
not
these
sure they thought there'd be backlash, because they did say these are coming into the game in mass volume, so they won't be exclusive for long. So everybody was already put on notice that these were not going to be choke. They weren't going to be choke points for these things, that they were going to go down in value.
Right, but I also don't think that. I mean, I understood that, but I also don't think most players thought they'd just be handing out, one for every single person's account. And when I'm talking about the dogpiling, is generally, if you think about it, and that's what the anger is on Reddit, is that, oh, well, said SP farmer has 1,000 accounts. Well, he probably got 1,000 each of these ships. And that's, where the rage came from. And you're right. CCP may not have thought of it that way, but the player base did. And now looking at it now, it's a bad decision if that's why they did that.
Well, the other thing about it is that people who had accounts wasn't necessarily even paid accounts. They could have been alphas. So that kind of puts some sting into it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It was a poorest incentive to have more accounts, was to benefit on these in-game events, or out-of-game events that would provide an in-game reward.
Right, and I don't mind things like that, right? I mean, every other MMO, any other game has, BlizzCon has exclusive, things for people that attend or watch their live stream. I'm all fine with that, but they're not per account, or they're per account. You only get one code, and I think CCP has already said they're going to. That's what's going to happen from now on. Go back to the old way of doing it with code cards.
That's correct.
Or
so
email.
Well,
that's the one thing they did say in the devlog was that from this point forward, they're going to go back to that, where they just have single-use items. But I think what stung me the most, and what might have stung a lot of people, was the fact that within almost the same week, you had CCP coming out and saying, hey, we want to get rid of this unassailable wealth, and then they go to turn around and they give people even more unassailable wealth, and it's like, wait a second, you just change things so people wouldn't have as much ISK, and now you've essentially seeded the entire universe full of even more ISK. It was like, what the hell?
But this isn't ISK though.
The thing is, there's a couple of injustices played out in this with this event. And one is that people who went to FanFest didn't know they were going to give them to all their accounts, so they didn't get a bunch of alphas before they went to FanFest. So even among the people that got this, there was some imbalance, right? Like the guy next to me got 100 and I got 1. We paid the same price for the ticket. That's not fair. But there are people who've always thought this is, even before you get to that point, it's not fair to reward people for buying your stuff, you're rewarding them in game for buying your stuff in real life. That's kind of the Summer Blink connection.
Yeah, right.
Well, in the case also, we'll use BlizzCon, I used it earlier. Most of all the gifts you usually get with BlizzCon are all, they don't affect the game. They're not
cosmetic.
They're all cosmetic.
Items.
Right. They're little pets or something for WoW or whatever, or something like that. So yeah, you're right. This is actually a game-changing ship for certain parts of certain players for Eve, and now a certain group of people have hundreds of them, which is, I get that more are coming, but these people just bought a ticket. Now they literally have 100 of them. And
I'm not sure how that's worked out either. I thought they had actually pulled them all back. It doesn't look like they have.
I think that's the intent, though.
That's the intent. People's already lost them. So the person that lost his, does he get another one?
Nope. Get good. Don't lose it.
So the last piece of news that came out of that article that dev blog, was that the future BPCs for the Enforcer, the Pacifier, and the new Marshal that will be released as part of the EVE Vegas 2017 will be available from the Project Discovery store as a progressive reward. And the Project Discovery will be released in July, and of course that's the exoplanets version of it.
Yeah, you get those. You can get. I'm sorry, I wasn't really paying attention, but you can get those through the discovery points or something like that.
Yeah, similar to the Sisters of Eve suits you could get as the max reward for the cell identification project discovery. This one they will be putting ships in there.
Is there a date on that? Because I would much rather do planet discovery than cell. I mean, cell microbiology, that was your kind of bag, but not me.
It'll be in the July release, whenever that is firmed up.
Somewhere in July. I think it's July 11th.
So does that make it at the same time? So it ultimately is going to be limited. Then it's not forever available, right?
Well,
only through Project Discovery while that event's happening.
The difference between Project Discovery exoplanets and the Project Discovery cell biology was that there's almost no limit to the exoplanet data set. Like, they just keep getting more data, and there's just more planets out there, and more stars to observe, right? It's an almost infinite universe, right?
That's interesting. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I guess so.
Right.
So you can grind your way to just wiping your ass in Concord ships, right?
So I think they will retain Project Discovery exoplanets, and if they further incorporate further citizen science projects into the EVE universe, which I think is a good thing. I think it's fun. It's an interesting part of the game. That they will just add more iterations and more side-by-side games.
That's cool. No, it's a good plan. To kind of meld those functions.
I think it brings nice promotional content to EVE from all the science conferences that this will be talked about, like the successful model for how to do citizen science through a game.
As long as they don't look at Reddit.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Well,
So that's cool, man. Gamification, right?
Well, or crowdsourcing, right? Because they're being used to EVE players. If you look at it from a cynical point of view, if you don't believe in these causes, they're being crowdsourced for an effort, and I'm sure there's not money going on. I'm sure it's voluntary and all that, and it's a good thing. But they are saying, like, hey, you can use all our players who are very smart and very interesting to do science, to do real science, and that is a marketing point that they can use for their game. But the exchange is that they get something special in the game for doing this work.
Yeah, and you can definitely attract, newer players who may not have been interested in EVE before, because you're like, okay, number one, I can have, this free alpha account, and I can go online and do this planet discovery, and that's fun, and then I can learn other things, so it can open up a whole new door.
Yeah, but the problem is players who aren't inclined to do that kind of stuff and see it as a job, not something cool, are saying, well, wait a minute, this is a sandbox that I'm a part of, and you're putting in these extra things like going to your fan fest or doing science for some university, and those guys get special treatment for their thing. And I'm trying to play the sandbox, and so you've got things from outside this sandbox influencing the sandbox.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's how you look at it. It just depends.
That's not my view, but that's not my view. But that's like
no. I'm saying, like, if like whoever wants to look at it that way, I mean.
But be aware also, alphas can't fly these ships either. So if they're doing the alpha stuff, can't get the Concord ships to use even.
But they could sell them.
They could.
And if the price holds, if it's difficult enough, or you have to earn enough points that it keeps the price of the new Concord ships down into a reasonable level, say 125 for the frigate, pirate frigate kind of levels, and 250 for the cruiser. If those prices hold, that's a good sum of money for a new player if they just have to do science.
Yeah, just science, man.
You might learn something.
Science.
All right, other things that's gone on this week. There were a couple technical issues with the single server logon.
Yeah, database issues, SSO. And that was just yesterday and on Friday they had some issues with that. I guess Friday they had shut down.
With their Plex bolts.
With their what?
The Plex bolt.
Oh yeah, as well.
But there were new features coming to the thing that CCP snowed in works on this week with the characters, assets, contracts, a couple other features.
Yeah, I don't know much about that because I didn't really log in too much this weekend.
That was via Twitter. You should follow him on Twitter.
Cool.
Yeah, Snowden's awesome. One of the most responsive devs out there.
Yeah, really nice guy. If you have Rock Band 4, or you really want to play, if you really want to play those permaban songs better than probably the CCP devs can play them.
I really do, and I really did download those. So if you go onto your Rock Band 4, doesn't matter what system you're playing on, you can search for the Rock Band songs. Let's see, Wrecking Machine and Killing Is Just a Means.
Yes.
So yeah, that's definitely fun. I downloaded those, and I'll be playing them quite often.
Yeah, those free.
They were free this weekend. I'm pretty sure they'll continue to be free.
It's pretty much advertising, right?
So I linked in the chat the thing. What do you mean what happened to my face? Nothing happened to my face, Morgan.
I'm sorry, video is broken this week. Except for mine, because mine doesn't break. Sorry. Frigates of Eve. The books have been delivered to the players who ordered them on pre-sales.
Yep, and now you can go to Amazon or whatever, and you can order that for yourself if you haven't already.
And the book is awesome.
Pretty much all those books, like the Eve Source book is just beautiful, and yeah, nice material.
Yeah, I agree. Very nice.
And finally, one thing that I found, I kind of had to dig around for it, but I found a forum post somewhere that said, from CCP Phantom, he said, let's build some Stargates and some other things. So are we getting Stargates? I don't know. It's very vague, very interesting.
Well, we're supposed to at some point, but everybody thought, and actually CCP said those would be the last structure that they make.
It seems so far into the future from where we are right now with structures.
Right.
Yeah, it seems I can't even see Stargates right now. Looking with binoculars, I think there's still so much structure stuff still that has to get done right now.
Well, what really only what's coming next is the
Refineries.
Yeah, the refineries.
Actually, man, there's a
then
lot
the
to
communication tower.
Yeah.
And then what? Then the gates, no?
Well, no, they talked about when they announced, structures. They announced, like weapons platforms and all kind of other structures that were shown. Of course, it's all, not final yet, but there was way more structures than just these, 4.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. I mean, we're on how many keep stars in Delve alone is 8.
Only 8.
Then we got, like my alliance specifically, we're worried about these refining structures because the only way you could find anyone who was making drugs was by finding the biochemical towers and whatnot. With these new structures, unless there's some physical way to see what that structure does, we're not going to know who's making drugs anymore. So there's no way for us to look at competition.
That's interesting.
Maybe that'll light up billboards.
It's not even so much that. I mean, if all you need to really install a refinery is just a moon, you can continue to do your drug operation in the wormhole.
I mean, it doesn't matter. We'll continue making drugs no matter what, wherever. But it's a matter of finding competitors.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Why do you eliminate the competition?
If we can, yes.
I love that. Actually, one of the coolest things that people did, I don't know if they still do it, is they had their drug dealer in Eve. So you would make contracts with people and would actually smuggle the stuff to you and drop it off, which is great.
I turned away for 1 minute. Now we're talking about drugs. What's going on?
Do you want some drugs?
Talking about Eve drugs.
I love Eve drugs.
The alliance, Ez and Wiz, the corp in my alliance, Ez and Wiz, were the originators of doing that. One of the famous stories is during a fleet fight, he got a contract to bring drugs to that fleet flight and deliver it to the person on grid.
That's legit.
Nice.
It's like ordering a pizza during a wrestling match or something.
Do you think anyone ordered a pizza during the Aga Keepstar fight this weekend?
I could have. I was there. It was slow going.
So
Tell us about this.
5-hour fight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Short for Keepstar.
So this was a Keepstar that was anchoring in the low-sec system of Aga, and it was onlining, so it didn't have any guns or mods. And the defenders were NC Dot and friends, right?
Yep.
No handlebars, and I believe Shadow Cartel.
No Handlebars was the owners.
And Pandemic Horde sent a small fleet in the battle at some point, about midway through.
They were there, yeah. They were there in the Hurricane fleet, I believe.
And the attackers were primarily goons and the Imperium, so that's Initiative and Bastion. And Proby Block was there as well.
You had a Red Alliance. There was a small out-of-sight fleet there.
And what was everyone flying mostly? Was it T3 cruisers? I know NC had a bunch of Titans on grid.
I believe Goons had a Jackdaw fleet, T3 fleet. You also had NC Dot mostly and their T3s. And it looked like no handles were mostly in capitals, and of course with NC Dot's super capital fleet there.
Yeah, for us it was a big call. It was a big call, and I think we dropped like 45 Titans, and we had probably had a T3 fleet there. This was during my workday, so I had to only watch and listen. And it was basically there to ensure that if people escalated, that it would be handled. But it seemed like it was mostly a subcap fight, and it was super exciting because it really ticked down to the very last seconds before it was blown up.
Yeah, CVA was there in a Cerberus fleet. Sorry, I remember that as well. But yeah, like when the CO2 Keepstar died, unless you kill everything on grid or prevent 100% of the DPS coming in, especially in heavy tie-dye, it's gonna keep dying.
Well,
Though they actually did stop it for a little while and got the timer down to 1 minute on the repair.
Well, what happened is that one goon fleet at about pair went down. He brought another fleet with him. So goons had 3 fleets, along with Providence and Jintan having 1, and they were really good. We only had 1 T. I'm in NC Dot. I was there, and we had the big T3 cruiser fleet that were pushing them off the Keepstar. But there was only 1 of us, and there was 4 other fleets, and they were doing really good about flying in, doing the DPS deposit. We would come, push them back off, and then as we would leave, another fleet would come in and we hit the jump. So really great coordination from Goons and Pravi with Goons, to be honest with you. And I know there's some other people that were with them, but those are the big 2 that I saw that were, we were constantly having to push back, and there was just great coordination is what kept that Keepstar.
Yeah,
balanced.
sadly, the coordination started on Talking in Stations Discord, where the FC's Apple Pair and Jintan got together and talked and decided to do this. And while that was happening, one of the fleets got wiped out, and that was Apple Pair. And he actually had a reinforcement fleet form and fly 66 jumps, that's about 30-40 minutes, back to the theater of action to finish it off. And that I think that's probably what did it, that kind of commitment.
Yeah, because I think if we'd had the Horde fleet there at the beginning of the fight, we would have easily not easily, but if would have more likely defended the Keepstar. But Alpair bringing back that defense or the reinforcements, it was just too many fleets for us to keep off at the same time to keep the timer from going. And
I was watching you all split up your subs, take on 1 fleet, and then the supers and carriers were sending their fighters after another fleet.
Yeah, and so we were effectively holding off 2 at a time, but there was always that one that would, come in, and we would have to kind of juggle around. It was a fun fight, though. I mean, I don't think anyone that was there did not have fun. I mean, it was a great, 2.5 hour brawl, and it really was just a good old-fashioned brawl. And tie-dye was not that bad compared to what I've played in with the past. And the I think what really kept it interesting is it wasn't just we were in subcaps. We weren't just sitting there, and our Titans and Supers just, even the people that were in Titan Supers were, changing target stuff. They were actually killing stuff because it was mostly a subcap force. So a lot of action going on the grid itself.
I don't think NC feels bad at all. They're supposed to protect it, sure, so they missed that objective, but they didn't really lose that Keep Star, and they didn't really lose much, but they took out 100 million in damage to those other fleets. So for the, for the grunts and NC, this was a good fight.
100 billion.
Sorry. Oh, sorry, 100 billion. Yeah.
Oh, does someone have the kill report for that with the from the battle?
Yeah, I do. Oh, well, I don't have the battle report.
I think.
Well, if you give me a kill, I'll start to pull it up.
I think this is a great example of how the design behind Keep Stars is supposed to work. Like, the battles over these fully functional ones should be bloody. There should be lots of ships killed. There should be lots of people sacrificing whole fleets to take down these huge beacons and the huge fortifications within your system, right? It should be a bloody battle, and I'm glad that this one was bloody. Unfortunately, as most people have talked about throughout Reddit and throughout the podcaster community, that the way void bombs affect fleet battles right now, it's unfortunately too challenging to actually bring any diverse fleet comps like the fleets that were there on grid to fight a Keepstar or any other Citadel, mind you, because once you're nuded out, you have to rely on a fleet that can actually run without cap, and that leaves the best in meta, which is Macarials.
Well, also, let's clarify, though. The only real Keepstar that was in a real fight was CO2's, and due to the tie-dye, it was basically neutered. Like, it was basically ineffective that entire fight past the 1 or 2 Doomsdays it managed to get off.
Yeah, this is the only way you kill Keepstars right now, is you kill them before they can defend themselves.
But somebody's going to have to fight these in the future. Like, people are going to leave goons to put a Keepstar in every system in Delve. Like, you got to be kidding me if that's actually going to happen.
It's going to take a while. The saturation's so far out.
There's nothing like there's not a great staging in there yet, and there's no one championing the cause. Like, there's no one rallying to do it because no one wants to fight that Sov or grind these structures.
And let's be honest, that's the whole purpose of Fortress Delve's layout currently. It would be such a grind that any attacker would just give up. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, look at the amount of let's look at the amount of Fortizars. Not even Astra houses, Fortizars in system as well, right? There's a Fortizar in every system, correct?
I don't know if it's every system, but it's getting close.
It's close. Yeah, it's getting close. And that's their final plan, is to have a Fortizar per every system. So you have possibilities of capitals coming out in every system without having to jump in. You can have capital stashes everywhere and actually be able to just jump clone yourself anywhere without having to actually move anything down. I mean, I don't want to say it's a problem. I think it's great to look at goons, look at their engineering forces, and go, wow, they've really, put their wealth, into practice on defending their space, because they're just gonna. There's fortresses, right? I don't see how anyone can break that. Even all of Eve coming at them, because they can literally jump clone to any part of their space right now and defend it.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks, but you know what? This is occupancy solve at its finest right here. Unfortunately.
Actually, this is structure solve, not occupancy solve.
Yeah.
Even if solve went away tomorrow, the fortress would still be there.
Yeah, because I mean, they're still killing CO2 Citadels in tribute.
Oh shit!
Still, this is still going on. So you can't imagine how many are going to be left anywhere else. People don't want to shoot these things.
Yeah,
because nothing drops from them.
Actually, that's really interesting, because it kind of falls into one of those kind of like larger ideas in Eve right there. Like, things need to degrade. They just need to. I mean, I'm just saying, like, if something's not in use, there needs to be a mechanic where eventually it just fades away into the ether. Otherwise they kind of just sit there forever and clog up the damn servers.
Or functions in a lesser form.
Yeah. Some sort of depletion, or some sort of depletion in functionality, or eventually just withering away, right?
Or you create some kind of bribing tactic for Concord, so you can up somebody's solve fees, or just some weird gameplay that can destabilize the status quo. Because the goons have kind of gotten to a point where even if somebody were to attack them and rally everybody to help them, the attrition rate would be so bad going through there because they still have income generation power and everybody attacking them doesn't because they're attacking and they can't be mining or they can't be ratting. So
2K plus people in a system to attack just a keep star.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it sucks, but that's why people to enjoy Eve. There's no war. There's no big wars happening.
Well, it doesn't suck. It doesn't suck for them. I mean, I'm sure they're thinking like, we're building society now. You can rat in peace. Forget HiSec. It's dangerous, but join us and look what you can have.
It's a great selling point, though, isn't it? Because they're selling the culture.
Well, that's why they're getting close to 30,000 members. They were at 20,000 at the beginning of the year. That's huge. They're bigger. They're twice as big as the next competitor.
Someone was saying, why is there no content, this, that, and the other? And I was just like, because people are lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And it costs ISK to do those kinds of things. Like if someone threw a bunch of ISK my way, I would go fight things, but I can't relax and do anything meaningful against the greater goodness that is Delve at the moment.
I mean, it's not even ISK, to be honest. People have fucking money. People got fucking money.
Well,
but people are lazy.
Yeah, some people.
Well, I think the incentives are not there. It's not about money. It's about what motivates people to do things. And if you don't feel that you can annihilate somebody, then it doesn't feel worth it. Like if you can just knock out something they can replace right away, it's not worth it. This is where the solve comes in.
Yeah.
Well, I think people would want to fight though, but the problem is, kind of like when the initial invasion of the North, there wasn't a whole lot of fighting.
So Alexia Card says this in chat, and I actually had a good discussion on Friday night with some Fort mates, and I thought about it a little bit. And so Alexia said that citadels need to be attackable pretty much at all times. I've always been kind of confused about this whole invulnerability time and time zone tanking. Like I don't know what the magic is behind saying you can only attack this thing at a certain time. But one thing that somebody had mentioned to me was like, why not have it to where it might take a little bit of programming skills, but say if your corporation or alliance is seen to be averaging being online at this specific time zone, then of course it should automatically be set to, hey, these guys are usually active on Friday night this time zone, and bam, there it is. And you should also scale it to where each one is I don't know, easier, or the timers are easier to set on different size, if that makes sense.
Well, the reason they have timers, as explained by CCP, was that they need to basically give people a chance that go, are not there for a week or two to be able to not lose everything they have. Yeah,
for sure. But I mean, then you get into the time zone tank, and you're like, okay, well, who's going to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday just to go fight this timer?
Yeah, that's literally what a group in Cloudering are doing. Like for them to set up all their stuff is set into like early morning for everyone. So there's no way a normal group EU or US time zone can really hit those structures effectively.
Well, this is part of the sandbox. I mean, if you wanted to attack a structure, I'm not advocating for this, but if you want to attack a structure, then you would hire mercenaries. And then you would hire late US Pacific, US time zone mercenaries or Australian time zone mercenaries and pay them 3 times as much. There's ways around it and stuff, but I don't think it's laziness at all. I just think that it's a system that, I don't know, probably doesn't have enough people playing it.
Well, the politics play a huge role too. I think Gentan hit it when you cordon off everywhere. There's basically 3 areas of Eve. You got the north, the south, and then you've got Delve. All those groups have interconnecting nips and naps between one another, basically making it a 3-way circus in nullsec right now, to all intents and purposes.
That's definitely a hobby horse of this show, is how the little alliances in this game don't have the options available to them, despite the efforts within Aegis Solve to enable smaller groups to take and hold sovereignty. Citadel Solve erodes that completely because of the power and strength of the hard points that are citadels.
Well, yeah, and I think that's on purpose. I think they set up Solve for the little guy. And I think they're replacing it with Citadel kind of Solve, where Solve doesn't even matter. It's where those castles are. And the castles run the systems around it, the constellation and stuff, because that's your power center. And I think eventually, maybe you'll see Solve go away entirely. Like the system of holding Solve won't matter. It'll radiate from those structures probably.
That'd be nice. I mean, we didn't always have Solve. You know, Nullsec didn't always have Solve. If you want to call it yours, then you made it yours.
Yeah, I talked to Fozzie about this, saying like, well, a lot of people, and this is before Solve came out, the new Solve came out, saying, well, a lot of people want you to have no Solve, to go back to the old days where you just roamed and you just claimed territory by strength alone. And he said, nope, can't. EVE players can't handle that. Maybe someday, but they can't handle that now. That's too shocking. So I think there might be a long plan working towards, that kind of castle Solve stuff.
Well, wormholes are that completely roam, you hold it by strength system, right? Because you can't actually hold Solve in wormholes, but you know who owns a certain wormhole.
Well, I mean, yeah, but also there's mechanics in place that even a small group can take the advantage to hold down the wormhole. I mean, it's not like it's just an open Stargate system. I mean, you have options for defense.
But there's no flag. There's no flag that says this wormhole is Hard Knocks. You just know when you get into Rage that those two keep stars mean that this is Hard Knocks' system, and you can try to live here, but it's not going to work out well for you.
Well, if you in the future you're going to have you're going to have structures that have images on it, right? You're going to have those bulletin boards, and so you'll be able to put up your graffiti if you want.
Or your statue just outside your son of whoever your CEO is.
That's
something.
Not what would go on my billboard, that's for sure.
The Planet of the Apes fur on sticks kind of thing.
So just going to structures all the way through. Oh goodness, I'm sorry, I broke up. I said that I guess it was going to just spat out Matani statues everywhere out in Delph. I bet those blow up though, so you can actually shoot a statue and it'll blow up, which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah, one reinforce.
You have to entosis it first.
Oh no,
boy.
no,
Gross.
Well, outside of the Auga fight, the other player news this week was the Evathon Twitch stream broadcast, 72 hours straight of Twitch content provided by all the streamers of EVE Online. All the hits were there: Rain, Manic, Scared Panda, Elise, Accessible Gamer, CCP Guard's first ever time streaming, Eve Scout, Lysis, Reload, Sutonia, Crest Kitty. I tuned in a couple times. I mean, it was on a long time.
Yeah. Friday night there was a relatively newer kind of streamer on there. He was mostly doing the Sisters of Eve Epic Arc, I believe, and pretty good time. I had a lot of fun with that. So pretty much they raised, I got the numbers straight from Scared Panda, it's $25,516 towards the Able Gamer Foundation.
Wow. So goal is only 10,000, right?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Oh, that's just fantastic. I think actually Open Comms, it wasn't a part of it, donated their money to it as well.
I think there was a donation of $1,000. I definitely saw that.
Wow.
So
if you are interested though, you can still donate. If you forgot about it, you didn't know, you didn't have time, you can actually still go on it and donate towards that. I'm going to go ahead and link that right now, but it's tiltify.com/Evathon. I'll link that.
So that guy probably hit one too many zeros, like in Gita.
Thought it was Plex.
But yes, Scary Panda said you can go ahead and keep donating until I believe tomorrow evening at midnight. I don't know what time zone, but she said tomorrow at midnight.
I think it's tax deductible for your local area.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was a good time. We've talked about able gamers before. We talked about accessibility, and one thing that Panda wanted me to point out was that CCP has done a lot of stuff as far as accessibility. Number one, they just did the color blindness thing this last release, and there's a lot of gamers that they support and they help out. Like Amo, who he can't necessarily do all the things that we can do, but somehow he does it.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch him play any game just how fluid like he does it.
Yeah, he plays games better than I do.
Yeah, he's also a heck of a nice guy.
Yeah, super nice guys. I talk with him a lot on Discord. He's a good guy.
But yeah, we should move along here. There's slash commands in the game.
There are slash commands now. So I put that in the notes because I do know there's slash commands, especially on the on Sissy. But there's a new one that, well, not really a new one, but one that I didn't know about that seemed pretty cool. It was to open your overview settings while docked. So that's why I want to put that in there, because I did not know you can do that. So if you do,
it's not new, but you can.
No, it's not new, but it's so slash open underscore overview underscore settings. So that's be pretty cool to me, is you can actually mess with your settings without being undocked. So you're safe.
Well, that used to be a bigger problem, because if you undocked, you only had a few seconds before you got shot and killed.
Yeah.
But with structures now, you can hang outside without worrying about that.
Yeah, so just like I always learn something new every week. So that's the one cool thing that I learned this week, that you can open your overview settings without undocking.
Yeah, I had no idea that was a thing either.
See?
Yeah, if you haven't, on top of that, make sure, especially if you're fighting in a system with heavy die and a Citadel, set to a shortcut for undocking.
Yes, there are short. So if you want to, I'll go ahead and link that. There's a whole list of things that you can do with these slash commands. I'll link that too.
That's legit, man.
All right, so in today's spotlight, I wanted to cover a bit of the hot summer we're having today, and there's definitely a lot of people have been calling it the Summer of Rage, or the Equinox of Heat. What did you call it, Orion?
Solstice of something.
Solstice of Bitching.
There we go.
Well, it's definitely been a good news week for all of us in the news industry. We have a pretty good group of the meta people here. We have a couple podcasters, commentator on the other side of the Twitter, and a massive intaker of all of the meta. So let's talk about a little bit about how the EVE media, in the meta sense, is handling all of the drama that is coming out of this Summer of Heat. Matterall, you wrote an article covering the differences and the similarities between the Summer of Rage from 2011 and the Summer of Rage this year. And what were your final conclusions in that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm doing a show on behalf of Dirk McGurk, who's doing the whole circuit this week, talking about this topic, and he's in talking stations all the time talking about it. So we're all buzzing with this topic. It's the daily meal right now. So that spawned a conversation between Noisy Gamer, Dirk, and myself, and we said, it's just time to write this, because people are comparing this upset. People are upset basically out there. Some people are upset out there, and they're saying on Reddit that they're labeling it the Summer of Rage. Well, we went through the Summer of Rage in 2011, where EVE basically revolted against the company that makes it, CCP, and I decided that we should basically point out what the stakes were there, and how that's different from what's going on now, how the stakes are much lower now, and the people who are being affected by the upsetting things are a much smaller group. So that led to an intense amount of research for like 3 days, because we don't want to get it wrong when we talk about history. So Noisy Gamer and Dirk and I, and with help from other people, including Carneros and Minxie, who was the chairperson for CS5, really kind of put together what actually happened that summer and before, because it actually started in 2010, rolled into 2011 in the spring, and then on the summer solstice, when Incarna was released, it all ignited in a period of basically 5 days, but if you count everything, 10 days. So 10 days of error after error after error produced a huge backlash that resulted in the company losing subscribers, but also really deflating their sense of hubris. And what happened that summer is it simmered down, and then by October, partially due to the the fact that there was no big bump of playership after the expansion came out. In fact, they lost 27,000 accounts that summer. They financially were screwed because their debt needed to be reorganized in October. And because they couldn't do that, they laid off, or they, as a sign that they were serious about getting their house in financial order, they laid off 20% of their global staff. And that was shocking. So all of that was, the stakes were huge, the issues were different, but there are some similarities to what's going on now. All that to say, as we're making this article happen, it took a while, right? 3 days. More and more things are coming out. So the second part of the article had to be cut out because things are just moving too fast. And any conclusions that we reach just may not be the right conclusions the next day. So we decided to just kind of put a couple paragraphs instead of a whole nother section, which actually would have made a very, very long article. So the comparison isn't complete. Because events really aren't complete yet.
Yeah, the story is definitely still being written, but it was a good article nonetheless. I mean, you, and then even Otto Bismarck put out something on Crossing Zebras, a quick little, no, EN24, I believe. Maybe it was Crossing Zebras.
Just Crossing Zebras.
Yeah, basically said, stop whining, you bunch of babies.
Well, that's not what we said. That's what we didn't make a conclusion, but I think a lot of stuff was coming out saying, stop whining, or CCP, you're really screwing us, or here's my idea for how to fix this situation. And so there's a lot of armchair dev work being done. This was kind of an attempt to do a serious, here's what was before, here's what is now, you make the decisions, is that really the same thing? And it was clearly not. Because the stuff that happened back then, again, this situation is still unfolding. We don't know where it ends up. But that situation is done in 2011, and we know that it changed completely changed the nature of Eve's direction. They completely stopped Incarna, which was walking in stations and character ambulation, basically having an avatar in the game. We know that Dust was no longer not going to be available to PC players. It was going to be a PS3, a dying platform that nobody wanted to really, play, that was playing Eve. Actually, that's too strong a statement, but the connection didn't work. And they didn't even know how they were going to connect it up until very close to the time they released it. So all the development work that was going on in 2011 changed directions. They completely stopped what they were doing, and they took the laundry list of stuff that players wanted and some devs wanted that were quick fixes, and that's what they did for the next 3 years. And then Siegel came aboard, and then they put together a new path, and the new path was structures and untangling themselves for the path.
In covering the history and researching all of the history for this article, did you get a feeling for how the Eve media, which was obviously different back at that time, covered the Summer of Rage?
That is a good question. I don't think I came away with an impression, because back then there really wasn't. There was some Eve media. There definitely was Eve News 24, which was basically taking a lot of stuff out of Kagutsumin forums. That was the place where people met. That was the Reddit of yesterday. There was a lot of bloggers at the time. So there was a lot of opinions and stuff. So the leaks and stuff like that would go to EN24 because I had the widest viewership, easily digestible. And then there was definitely a lot of blogging going on about it. But I didn't get a sense from reading all the stuff, because we all lived through it. So we were going for the facts. We were looking at dev blogs. We were looking at what they were saying. And then we were looking at statistics, what the statistics were bearing out, how many people were doing this and who was doing that, what their financials look like. I mean, we were digging up papers in Icelandic and translating them, that kind of stuff.
So today, in covering our current set of drama, do you think the media is doing a good job of covering it? Are we giving it too much legs? Are we underreporting? Is it just
I think like with Matterall, maybe not so much on the point of Auto Bismarck, but definitely with Matterall's article, and a few other people have tried to make real good arguments and solid points about it. That's a lot better. A lot better catalyst for change than people just bitching and complaining in Twitter and Reddit, especially Reddit. I mean, I hate that place, but like Matterall said, there's a lot of people saying like, "Oh, I would have done this," or "You should do this," or "You should do that," and that's not really constructive.
Well, it's an emotional place. Reddit's an emotional place. You can get a lot of emotion. It's not always informed emotion, but it's not always not informed either.
We invest our time, which is worth more than anything else in this game, and we meet these people and we get invested in it. So the rage just kind of flows out when anything's changed. It's going to affect how much we enjoy this game.
Well, I don't think it comes out of enjoyment. I think it affects your gameplay. Just because you have a certain kind of gameplay doesn't mean you enjoy it. It's just the best way to min-max this game.
I enjoy it.
Well, I mean, I enjoy it too.
Sure sounded like you enjoyed it right there.
Well, I'm not saying that people don't enjoy carrier rating, but let's be honest. You have a super, you can get a quote-unquote 260 million is tick off of it, which is, there's some irony in there. I don't think it's more about enjoying it, whether it's the most efficient way to make ISK for that person.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, guys, I mean, if you look into the whys of the original Summer of Rage, it's very different from the whys of right now. It's apples and oranges. I mean,
I agree with you. I totally agree, and that's why I don't like giving. Go ahead, Matterall.
I'm sorry. I just want to say, because I'm running out of time, there are some similarities, though. It's not completely different.
Yeah.
The stakes are different, right? Because the stakes are different, but the undercurrents are similar, and some of the actions taken are similar. The undercurrents are that people are dissatisfied with the progress. Incarna was a huge wake-up call because there was a lot of time given, a lot of grace time given by players to the company to develop something that didn't get delivered at all, or it didn't get delivered in a way that was playable at the time. It was just the beginning of something. There was also a weariness of the direction they were going. That's not the case this time around. This time around, there is kind of a stress about the game not progressing fast enough. That is there. But I think people do like the direction the game is going because they did before. So it's not quite the same thing. But I think the thing they do have in common is that people are upset things aren't moving fast enough. And that may not actually be true because I don't think people like Solve. And the influential people that talk don't like Solve. I don't know how everybody feels about it, but the people who talk say that there's not enough there. And this got brought up earlier today. They don't like the way that the timers work. So there is some, not liking things, but not necessarily the direction. They like the direction that it's going. Another thing that happened was that devs try to protect devs in the forums or in public places, and they end up making the problem worse because people are agitated. And so when they come out like Quant did and say, "Hey, you guys, back off. You have to look at it this way." Then he gets taken apart as an untrustworthy person, when before that he was a super trusted person, super beloved person. And it's probably unfair to judge him on that one post, but players took it and ran with it. And that's what happened in 2011 as well. So those are the similarities. One last similarity was that people take things out of context and start memeing it to death, which is like, 1% of the 1%, or the "where's my 270 million tick?" or 260 million tick, and that gets repeated a lot, and it's completely out of context. Just like in 2011 when people were talking about $1,000 jeans and greed is good. They didn't say greed is good ? Which is the way it was actually written when CCP was exploring ways of making money. They just say, "Oh, greed is good." That means CCP is saying that greed is good, and that's endorsed, and that just wasn't the case. So there's a lot of misinformation from angry players and people stirring each other up. And Reddit provides that. Kagutsman provided it back in the day. And the same thing. So there's some similarities, but the stakes are totally different.
Yeah. I challenge you guys to imagine the scenario, though, without skill injectors.
Yeah, that's definitely a variable. And we'll see in the future, especially now that they've taken this firm stance on the SP farms, and and making these few changes. I'm trying to look at it very positively. I think CCP has a plan for the future that we're obviously just not seeing yet. I just hope that what has been happening over the past couple of weeks isn't a trend in a downward direction.
I think truthfully, not being a CCP white knight, but I think really it's just been a series of events that happened at a very short time between them, and that's what that you're seeing people really mad about. It's not about Ghost Train's bad. They need to do something. They shouldn't have done this with the Concord ships. They're having issues with servers going offline. Then there's the whole skill queues. If this stuff would have happened 3 or 4 months apart, I don't think it'd have been an issue. But since it's all piled on at once, people are just concerned and mad that their game is not working the way they thought it should, and CCP doesn't seem to have, for appearances, have it together.
Well, the last thing is they seem to be out of touch, right, with the game. People make that claim all the time. They don't even play their own game. They have other players, and that was also something that was going on in 2011, where the release of Incarna came out, and players were like revolting, and the memo came out. It was an email saying this was like the smoothest expansion we've ever put out, and it's gorgeous. And people were like, it's terrible, and it's burning up my computer. Completely separate experiences. The thing was, CCP was looking at it from their point of view. For us, technically, putting this out was the smoothest operation we've ever had. And then players were looking at it from their point of view, saying, my computer is melting, and I can't avoid it. I have to go into this thing, this graphics engine that's melting my computer before I can even play the game, so I can't even multi-box. So that's the disconnect that happens there. They were both right. They were just looking at it from their own points of view.
But if we were, as a media, as podcasters, were actually part of the upset majority, we would be yelling at the top of our lungs. And here on Mindclash, we have not been afraid to yell at the top of our lungs about topics we don't agree with. But I don't get that from the podcasting community. I don't get it from the article writing community. There were a lot of upset articles around the end of Dominion being like, we have to get out of the Dominion set. This is why, here's our long form article about why we need to get out of Dominion. And there were a lot of upset people with Dominion, right?
Maybe we're just defeated.
I just didn't know any better.
I think
Dominion's actually good.
Someone that's new to Eve Media, I'm not really Eve Media, I'm a satire parody site, but
I just play one on TV.
Exactly. But new to this, having these people as, I would consider, acquaintances in game and talking to them, I think a difference between the real Summer Rage 2011 and this now is that the media is also giving CCP time to respond and not just dogpiling. Because I think that if you're a person that really cares for this game, you've played it for a while, which a lot of the Eve Media people are, then they're waiting. They don't want to dogpile because they don't want to make a situation worse, and they're also trying to make logical decisions to say, okay, what's really going to happen here? What's really going on? And we don't really know yet. It's too soon to tell, as Matterall says. Well, that article's not finished.
Yeah, I also think that it's hard to pick winners. If it was so obvious, people would get mad and stick with their guns. But I honestly think that they don't know what's right now. They feel upset. They don't know why. And it's not everybody. And most of the anger is really coming out of Reddit. So there's a lot of radiation coming out of Reddit. But that doesn't mean it represents the whole community. In fact, when I look at statistics for INN, what kind of reach we have to EVE players, and not that we can really calculate that, but we can make assumptions based on statistics. And when I was at EN24 and we're looking at statistics there, the EVE media isn't reaching it's only reaching a fraction of the EVE player base. And by a fraction, I mean like less than 20% and more like 15%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can't speak for them because we don't really know them. If you run around in game, there are people that don't know even what the Imperium news is. They may have heard of Imperium, but they haven't heard of Imperium news.
Yeah, I've got actually one of my coworkers who plays EVE as well. He's in the same corporation as I am. He's never watched any of the podcasts. He's never listened to them. I'll come up to him like, hey, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that? And he's like, nah, man, I never heard about that. I'm like, well, did you read this article? No, I never heard of that. So it's like, definitely, absolutely, you're 100% correct. There are people who just play the game and log in, log out, and that's it.
Now, I will say that the counterpoint to that is the people that do listen to this are a lot of decision makers for smaller groups, and not necessarily the big wigs that play the bigger groups, because some of them don't pay attention to news at all. They get their news from their friends because they have this whole network of long time friendships, so they find out what's going on through them. But if you hit the middle tier leadership, I think a lot of them who are trying to improve at the game, and the middle tier grunts that are trying to kind of like get more out of Eve, those are the kind of people that will seek out extra stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely little pieces you can glean from each podcast and each media site towards a certain group's affiliations, or what they're kind of thinking about, or how they're playing the game. Maybe not what they're going to do tomorrow, but you can glean their internal workings.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on this, because I gotta go pretty soon, is what people were fighting against back then was a fear that the game they knew was being taken away. And that was subscription-based, keeping out riffraff, right? Because if you have to pay $15, you're going to try to play it in a serious way. Instead of people just poking around and making trouble all the time, they wouldn't pay to do that. So what you would get is something that would hold out people. And people were afraid to death that was going away with microtransactions. Because that microtransactions is a revenue stream that would allow it to go free to play, which would allow more people to get in, which would increase your revenue from the microtransactions. And microtransactions have the bad reputation of being pay to win. So in order to get ahead in the game, you would pay money. And this really put off people who play this game, because this game is based on time. How long have you been here? In fact, if you hear people argue, they argue about two things. What was your kill board, and how long have you been in? Those are the two things that are seniority around here. And so that was being taken away. So people were really revolting against that. And the reason is everything in this game is an investment. Like, it's an investment of time. It's an investment of energy, like how much thinking you put to it, all the spreadsheets you build, all the calculations, all the looking at the map to figure out where the best place to set up your industry is. All that stuff takes time. And all the research it takes to even learn the game before that. So that's an investment that people were afraid was going to be taken away by microtransactions and free to play. And fast forward to 6 years later, and the stuff that they're fighting is kind of in the game. You have injectors now that allow you to speed up your access to equipment, and you have alpha state, which allows you to exist in the game without paying anything. So done right, CCP was right. And it turns out, if you listen to the Talking in Stations last week, you heard Carnero say that CCP was never in it for money. They weren't trying to make money off microtransactions. They just needed to understand it. So if they needed to adapt, they could. And that was really important to them. But that didn't get communicated very well. And that was why you had such a flare-up.
Well, chat has turned to talking about killboard stats, and that reminds me
that was quick.
That I need to actually get to a CTA pretty dang quick here.
Oh no.
So I want these people here to talk about their shows. I love all of these shows, and I want you to advertise them to the community here. I'm sure they've heard of them, but please tell us what your shows are and when they are and how we can listen to them.
Can I go first? Because I got to run.
Yes.
Sorry, but I will say, I guessed a lot, and so I'll just speak on Dirk's behalf that Open Comms is Friday nights on Imperium News Twitch, and Talking in Stations is the show on the next day. That's a Saturday, or 1500 UTC, or basically 8 a.m. Saturdays, and that is Talking in Stations. And we try to get guests that are news makers, I guess is the way to put it. People that will give you new information that you haven't heard yet anywhere else. That's kind of what we focus on. But yeah, tune in.
It's a great show. Probably the best in the Eve community. If you're not checking it out already, you should. Way better research than us, I tell you that.
No, you guys do a great job of getting everything. I actually envy your show, because you really do. You really do put down the notes, You
got to keep these monkeys in their barrels, or else they just get out. They just start throwing poop.
Yep. Poop those.
I started on open comms. I learned that organization is the only way to keep something assembling order on topic.
True story.
Tell me about Eve Station Trader, Roden.
All right, hey guys. Again, this is Roden. I do / help out with 2 shows. The first one is my station trading stream on Tuesdays, 0100 Eve time on Twitch, where I actually talk about what to trade, what to buy, what to sell. And oddly enough, I actually do it myself as well. So it's not just do as I say type of scenario. I actually do it. Along with that, it's basically it's a market show. It's a market show for Eve. That's really all it is. And I go over not just picks for the current week, but I also review the picks from previous streams just to see how well the picks work for the most part. And it's all transparent. I look at everything's just through the in-game, so no extra tools or anything like that. And the second show I'd like to pimp out is actually the Blue Horseshoe podcast with that's led by myself and Kael and Meredudd from Eve Guardian. So Eve Guardian is a website that actually picks up all the news, meta stuff, and definitely market-related items. And we do that on Saturdays, 2200 Eve time. And we are doing that, as of last week, we were doing that on YouTube Gaming channel. So Eve Guardian on YouTube Gaming.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Opus, where can we hear your unique style of satire?
Can't hear it anywhere, but you can see it on twitter.com / Evonion News. I am launching the website soon. Logo is finished. Hallelujah. I have an ad ready to go. I'm getting staff. So if you actually would like to write satire or have some art inclinations, then please hit me up. I'm looking for staff and we'll pay. Thank you.
Nice.
It's got to be dictated to me somewhere. What if I can't read?
Well, maybe eventually you might make a satire news weekly or monthly show. Some of the best stuff we get content on the site. That has been something I've discussed. Kind of like those onion videos you see actually on their site. It might be something kind of funny.
Oh, we definitely got to make this happen.
Orion, tell us about your group. I will link the video, I swear, in the next show.
I was lied to.
I can link it at the end of the show, but it's going to screw up the sound.
No, you're fine, dude. I just want to make sure everyone knows Meredudd lied to me. Iron Armada untrustworthy.
I don't speak for Iron.
No, I'm with Relax, Hedonistic Comparative. I am one of the lead FCs for the Alliance and one of the leaders of Dystopian Heaven, a corporation within Relax. We make drugs. If you come towards Fountain, say hi to us. And if you need drugs, please search out Ez and Wiz.
Great stuff. Kael, any plans for the week? You going to hit some more of these rogue drone sites?
Yeah, I've only done a couple. Actually, took a few guys who have never done them before out so they can explore them. They're very, very pretty to look at, but I have not collected any loot for myself because I was too busy helping out bros. But yeah, I'll do a couple more, but tomorrow I'm going to be brewing some beer, and that's always more important.
Fair enough. Just a reminder, there are a bunch of real-life meetups. If you like talking Eve, if you like meeting Eve nerds, it's the greatest part of the community, is meeting other people who share the same interests as you. There are lots of meetups all over the world. Check out eve.meet. Personally, I will be at the Vancouver Eve meetup tomorrow. It's in Vancouver. The Houston and Salt Lake City meetups are on the 24th. Eve in Detroit is July 1st. And then there's some German meetups that I will not even butcher the name of, July 5th and July 8th.
Okay, I do want really quick though. I do want to shout out Hammock Talk. That's the guy I was talking about earlier that I was watching his stream on Friday night. He was running the SOE Epic Arc. He just popped into the chat. So hello Hammock Talk, and that was a good stream you had. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, shout out to all the new streamers. It's always good to get your content out there.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out. Sometimes that becomes the focus, and the game kind of just goes along with it. Or other games, right?
Yep.
And myself, Meredudd, our group Iron Armada is always recruiting. If you want some semi-safe space in Fountain, you can make some money. If you want to learn how to PvP on a small gang level where every pilot in every fleet matters, not just a standard F1 pusher, join us in Iron Armada. You can look us up, Iron Armada Public. Iron Guard is the corporation. Yeah, Mind Clash. We're here every Monday if you're catching this in post. Monday, Tuesday, Eve time, 0200, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Live on Twitch, Mind Clash live, twitch.tv/MindClash live. You can join us in our community on Discord. You can chat to us during the week. You can offer to come on our show. You can post us all your cool videos, and I'll link them at the beginning of the show. We are shameless self-promoters of anyone who's interested in our show. No bribes required.
Maybe a little bit.
Well, we like bribes too, but unrequired.
Yep. So, yeah, definitely thanks for watching, and make sure you check us out any other time.
And then there's YouTube, podcast players. I'm sure you found this somehow. You can find us elsewhere. Thank you for all our guests for coming, and we will catch you next week for another episode of Mind Clash Podcast.
Yep, and shout out to Harp.
The beer?
No, someone who's on staff duty with me. She asked me to do a shout out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Good night.
Night night.
We
See ya.